Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of All Things Considered Franchising, powered by Scott Milas, franchisecoach.com. I am your host, Scotty Milas. All Things Considered Franchising is a podcast devoted to the entrepreneur, people seeking to get into business ownership for the first time, explore franchise opportunities or independent opportunities, I should say, as well, although primarily franchises. Scott Milas, franchisecoach.com is an organization that I am president and founder of, a consulting organization that helps people research and explore those franchises, helping them build a business model, and of course, introducing them to the brands that fit their profile and what they're looking for. So today's guest is an interesting guy because he comes out of that, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, that tech background that has migrated into franchising. And I guess there's a tie here between tech, digital, and franchising. And we're continuing our series with Horsepower Brands. And we're speaking to Jon Denton, Director of Franchise Development for Heroes Lawn Care. Welcome, Jon, to the show.
Thank you, Scott, for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I kind of doing some history, taking some notes here. You've come out of that SaaS digital tech background, and I'm just kind of curious because tech plays a role in franchising. Especially on the franchisee support side through the franchisor. So what got you into franchising? How did you migrate into this? And maybe connect some of the dots in technology before we get into Heroes Lawn Care.
Yeah, great question. I started a little bit less than a year ago here at Horsepower. I originally met a friend through cybersecurity software. I hired him, and he eventually came over to Horsepower after we had separated after a 2 or 3 year run in cybersecurity. And he had told me about this opportunity at Horsepower Brands. I had no background in franchising. I had no desire to be in franchising at that point. Really hadn't even been exposed to what, besides Ace Hardware, McDonald's, and Burger King, those types of things, had really no idea what franchising was. I came in and sat with the team, and having that software as a service or that SaaS background, I was drawn towards Heroes Lawn Care early on, and it resonated with me that it was treated like a software, a data, a technology company. Speaking of Horsepower, and they were using very high margin, very low labor services to be the vehicle, right, to help folks diversify some portfolios. So I thought about it in the long run, and I said, okay, lawn care, probably what most brokers, what most consultants, what most candidates probably think when they hear lawn care, they probably gloss over. But this is really designed to be an investor model, to acquire revenue in multiple different services. So that fit what I came from, having multiple levels of software experience.
Interesting. Well, just to educate our listeners here, Horsepower Brands is a franchise sales organization. I would consider Horsepower Brands to be one of the top 3 FSOs, they call it, franchise sales organization. Not only are you offering brands that you own yourselves, Josh and Zach, but you're also providing all of the startup steps to get someone open, the marketing support, correct, the operational support. Some FSOs, and I always caution people when using an FSO, sometimes FSOs are in a position where they just sell or award the franchises, and then they turn you over to the franchisor, and a lot of people get lost. So I think Horsepower represents the FSO model, like I said, A1. So, but you're with Heroes Lawn Care, an interesting brand because, lawn care has, I know for me, is a pet peeve. I mean, I'm always looking for somebody who can take care of my lawn and do it the right way, and it's hard to find sometimes. Tell us a little bit about the brand, and go from there.
Yeah, I'll start with the concept of why we brought this brand to life in the beginning. Is when you look at Horsepower as a portfolio company, there's 8 now brands that we have for a candidate to choose from to help, again, build wealth, build a better future. So when you think about Heroes, inside that portfolio, we have what I call a mini Horsepower going on at Heroes, because we have 4 franchise concepts that are available under Heroes Lawn Care. So it's fertilization, it's irrigation, it's pet waste removal, and it's mosquito, flea, and tick spray. So we've taken some of the best, most high, or some of the highest margin businesses in the lawn care space, and we've combined them under one umbrella. What it's designed to do is give only semi-absentee and executive owners the ability to invest in multiple franchises at one time. Therefore, seeing a bigger cash return, hopefully, as you build the business.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, John, because I am, as a coach in helping people research and explore opportunities, I am a big fan in brands that have multiple revenue drivers. And revenue drivers that tend to be recession resistant, technology resistant. What I mean by technology resistant is that you're not competing with Amazon. Now, obviously, Amazon cannot mow your lawn and some of the other services, but talk a little bit about those revenue drivers, because that's educational to our listening audience, that it's just not one revenue driver.
Absolutely. And as you know, finding a good, solid, profitable, recurring revenue franchise is rare. It's difficult to find one that can obviously build big. That concept was thought about here. We did not want one concept. We wanted 4. That way you have value to the homeowner that no one else has in the market. So fertilization, standalone concept. You'll have a fertilization. Right. It'll be its own ecosystem. You have the own marketing truck, technician, and you have irrigation. Think about how much irrigation work is needed in these markets, right? We do everything that's on top of the ground, so it's on and off the properties fairly quickly. And then mosquito and pet waste removal are 2 of the highest gross profit margin lines of service in the home services business. So it's all about density and home services, as many as you can get in a neighborhood or in a territory. From the density side, obviously creates higher profit margins, but these are all cross-marketable services. They're all recurring revenue, and they all play well off each other for the homeowner to say, hey, we've got a 4-in-1 concept, one bill, one head of the snake to chop. Those types of things are very valuable in the territories that we're in.
That's interesting. You mentioned semi-absentee executive model, and it's coincidental because a little later today I'm going to be doing a training session to some other consultants on what semi-absentee is, because it draws a lot of attention, but there are a lot of hidden answers to what semi-absentee is. So, knowing that, because of my experience in all my years, decades of being an entrepreneur and understanding business, can you explain how Horsepower and Hero Lawn Care looks at semi-absentee and what your definition of a semi-absentee owner is?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, I think it comes from the support side. Semi-absentee, anytime you buy into a business, whether it's existing business or a franchise, you have to have these pillars of support that are pushing in your direction at all times, right? That's how you scale. That's how you build the business. So we do not use those third-party preferred services. We actually have built out these support models or support services internally. So everything from HR, lead generation, the fleet department, bookkeeping, everything that is needed from a day-to-day operational standpoint is powered through our corporate office by Horsepower employees, US-based call center, right? So we've taken the guesswork out of, like you said, coming around the corner and being surprised as a semi-absentee owner that you have to now go out and navigate the call center world, right, to try to find a vendor. Right. So when you think about semi-absentee, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Well, here at Horsepower, we've taken a lot of that guesswork out of it. Yes, you still have to be involved in our business. We want that 5 to 10 to 15 hour a week semi-absentee owner that has vision, that has strategy, that has people, processes, and a lot of optimistic mentality, right? We're looking for an empire builder. So for me, I'm not looking to create a lawn care executive. We actually don't take anybody from the lawn care industry into our brand. Right. So we're very selective on the people that we choose, and usually there's a good match. Somebody has an optimistic personality, wants to build a big business. There's 4 service lines, all recurring revenue. It's a good match.
So let's talk, one of the big questions, we're talking to Jon Denton, who's Director of Franchise Development with Horsepower Brands. He covers the Heroes Lawn Care brand that's under their umbrella, and we're talking about semi-absentee. Their definition of what a semi-absentee franchisee looks like in their system, and that includes someone who understands or doesn't want to go out and get all of the additional operational and marketing tools needed to be a semi-absentee. Horsepower provides that as part of the package. And I know your package or your investment is more structured for the complete package versus attracting people in on the lower side and then saying, well, now you got to spend money for this. But before we dive into the investment level, one of the big questions today that always comes up on a service-based brand or any brand that requires labor is how are you assisting franchisees, and I know you have your HR department, as far as hiring and maintaining employees, helping the franchisees maintain their employees? Because that's a big question today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's one of the main questions that we get on from all of the candidates that we get sent is labor. You know, one of the reasons why we don't play in a high labor, low margin space like mowing, edging, and trimming in the lawn care world is kind of a transient labor system there, right? So we utilize the services that require technicians to have licenses, spraying applicator backgrounds, right? So it's a different level of employee. We have incentivization packages that are obviously put in place to keep these employees happy, culture driven, right? Rowing upstream for you on a daily basis. So we have bonus plans and all that good stuff. And you said it right. We have an internal HR acquisition talent team. Again, one of those surprises around the corner that we took out.
Right.
Heroes specifically has 17 launched franchises in the first 9 months of business, which is an incredible feat. And we've hired all 17 of those general managers through our recruiting firm. So we have a certain idea of a person that we need in that business to help that semi-absentee owner push that business forward through that territory.
That's interesting because, you know, you've really taken a lot of the legwork out for a franchisee. You've made it simple for them to come in, and not simple. I don't like to use the word simple, that it's simple, but nothing's ever simple. But you've made the process step by step as far as being able for a franchisee to delegate versus coming in and trying to put all the pieces to the puzzle together and then delegate and build the business. So the ramp up time becomes a little bit quicker. So,
Absolutely.
We're vested in
business too.
Yep.
I'm sorry, we're vested in these brands, so we own it, right? We need them to scale. We need them to launch correctly, and do it and maintain that, right? And that's again that's how we make money. But we want to see the success increased. And once you do that, you start building empire builders. People that see that early success and want to drop brand number 2. That's what we're here for.
You know, what type of franchisee? You mentioned 17 so far in the short time frame that you've launched the brand, but what type of franchisee are you seeing as being successful? I mean, you mentioned the executive model. You're not looking for somebody necessarily out of the lawn care business, but tell us a little bit about that profile that you're seeing that is potentially that successful franchisee.
Great question. So I always start with, I've got vice presidents of General Motors down in Atlanta. I've got mortgage industry execs in Nashville. I've got other franchisee owners across the country. So it's a mix of business owners, executives, high-end W-2 earners. And what I'll say is that they're very good with people, processes, and improving what they see from a visionary and a strategy standpoint 3, 5, 6, 12 months down the road. Like they can spot these areas where they can pivot. I have 5 military veterans. I think 2 of them are still active in the family, and I've got 5 standalone female owners. So
wow.
Interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And as a girl dad, I'm proud of that too. So we don't really hone in on a specific characteristic other than a semi-absentee net worth that's certain around. And then again, have they moved a business forward? Are they successful in their current careers? How are they successful? You know, we pinpoint those types of characteristics early and try to match those with, what we're bringing to the table. Interesting.
Just to switch back to your side of the story, being involved in franchising now, time flies. I guess the clock has been ticking for you. You've gotten your feet wet. What surprises you most about the franchising industry? What do you? I mean, did you have any preconceived notions prior about franchising prior to getting into it? I mean, just curious because there are a lot of preconceived notions about franchising that, it's all about the franchisor. They're going to rob you blind. And I mean, now that you've kind of been in it for, coming up over a year now, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, a couple of things. Like I definitely had a skewed vision coming in. I was, again, hadn't really thought about like home services and how they build wealth for people over time, and the need for these businesses on a home and being bouncy in a recession. All those things never crossed my mind. And then the one thing that really sticks out to me is the number of people in this country that are 1 foot in of corporate America and 1 foot out of corporate America,
right.
looking to in 3-5 years down the road get out of that and do something on their own and be an entrepreneur, or expand their portfolio or whatever it is. And that to me is a blessing, because I get to help those folks use horsepower, use Heroes as that vehicle. It's amazing that you've got a good broker, franchisor, franchisee triangle relationship as well.
Right.
So you have everybody pulling for the success of that franchisee, which I think, I think I'm kind of spoiled because I came into franchising sitting in a horsepower seat. I've never experienced any other franchisor or franchise sales organization.
Right.
Not saying that I will in the future, but I definitely like where I sit and the approach and the structure and the help and the support that they give these franchisees.
Yeah, I mean, they are second to none. And I've used the analogy, and I heard this many, many years ago, is that in franchising, starting a franchise business is, if you put it into a sports analogy, it's like starting on third base. And you're getting home being, trying to, you're going from third to home to be successful. Whereas if you're an independent, you're getting into the batter's box for the first time, and now you're trying to get around all the bases, hit that grand slam. So I thought that was great, John.
I'll give you my analogy real quick. So I say to folks, franchising to me is like the NFL. Everybody's got a playbook, right? Some are more successful than others, right? Some players are more successful than others that follow those certain playbooks, right? So there's a whole myriad of, there's a why. That's why you audible every now and then, but there's a reason why a coach calls a play and you run it, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's and it's funny because I get the question a lot from my clients. Why do people fail in franchising? And I tell people that people fail for 3 reasons. One, they didn't really have spouse or significant other support from the beginning, so they put a square peg in a round hole and try and get support. They have been underfunded, which goes back to what we talked about, that you front load your costs saying, hey, look, this is what it's going to take to operate this business for X amount of months, versus now that you're in, now you got to go out. And 3, people are just underfunded. I mean, they just don't realize the cost of starting a business. So, John, if somebody's interested in talking more to you about Heroes Lawn Care, what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you? Should they reach out through you, connect through you on LinkedIn? Should they email you?
Yeah, absolutely. Connect with me on LinkedIn. My email is readily available. You can also reach out to our ops department. Ops department usually controls my early scheduling on my calendar. Yep. So would love to have obviously multiple different ways of connecting with franchisees potentially,
Wow. Well, John, it's great to have you on the show. We hope to get you back in the next 6+ months just to give us an update on how Heroes is doing. But it sounds like a really exciting brand. And of course, anything run by Zach and Josh is going to be successful. We know that. And as somebody who's been around them for a long, long time, there's no doubt that Horsepower and, of course, Heroes is going to be a player in the franchising space. So I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. This is Scotty Milas, the host of All Things Considered Franchise, powered by ScottMilasFranchiseCoach.com. If anyone has an interest in learning more about Heroes Lawn Care or any of the Horsepower brands, you can reach out to Horsepower directly or give me a call at 860-751-9126. Email me, Scott, at ScottMilasFranchiseCoach.com. Visit my website or visit the All Things Considered Franchising podcast channels on Spotify and YouTube and other various places to watch podcasts, I guess. So, John, I wish you all the best. And, again, stay in touch.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.